Defense in Madden 26 is incredibly hard. This is a topic every single year, but yet somehow this year feels like potentially worse than other years. Let me show you guys something right here. This is a tweet from one of my good friends, Goat Geezy. Now, for quick context, Goat Geezy is a professional Madden player. He's also somebody who streams every single day. He's incredibly good at the game, and we don't just throw around the word professional. He just made, yesterday, the final 8 of the most recent Madden Championship Series tournament. That means he's one of the top 8 players in the world right now. Top 8 in the world. Like, not of his CFM, not of his league, no, of the best players in the world. Go Geezy knows what he's talking about with the game. Now, when he makes this tweet right here, every game on Madden 26 I play makes me worse on defense. Now, this is probably exaggeration. I've played 3 games, locked in style, so games he was like very focused on, where the games were 76 to 61, 70 to 56, and 63 to 56. I am grateful that I don't play on Saturday. He's just talking about the single eliminations that happened on Saturday. He got to skip because of buys. This is insane. And this is not a one-off thing. This is an echoed sentiment across the competitive community. This is an echoed sentiment across people who play the game online, who really kind of care more about gameplay. And it's something where it's kind of nuts. So I want to talk about things I think are actually actionable that can change. Okay, there's some stuff where it's like, man, one thing I want to give some perspective here too, where it's genuinely baffling to me that this is even possible because I look back at the idea of, man, we have switch stick in the game and custom zone drops in the game. Like, wow, that's insane. We can literally go create any zone on the field and we can switch to any defender. 5 years ago, we didn't even have zone drops. First and foremost, I'm going to make a kind of a statement here that's going to be really bold, so people are going to get mad at me. Let me defend it for a moment, okay? If the defender gets 2 hands on the ball ever, interception automatically. I don't care. No ands ifs, no percentages, no odds, no anything. Interception every single time. I have a couple of reasons why. First and foremost, on offense, we have an unfair advantage. Insanely unfair. What is that advantage? Well, as the quarterback, when I get that ball, I'm able to, on my computer monitor when I'm playing the game, I can see the top right of the screen, the top right of the football field, and the bottom left of the football field, essentially at the same time. That is something that quarterbacks in real life cannot do. And if they could, they would have much higher completion percentages, and offenses in real life would be overpowered, right? This is something where there's nothing EA can really do to even limit this. And what I mean by that is because we have a bird's eye view of the play at all times, something that you just don't have in real life. Okay, the way that EA has combated this in the past is like Vision Cone from Madden, like '08 or something. I don't think that's a great solution. The other idea that comes to mind is playing first person. That's obviously not an idea, right? So you can't really take that away from EA's perspective. We're always going to have this bird's eye view. At least I think we will. I don't know the way around it. What I think then, because it's an unrealistic advantage to the offense, I think the defense should be given an unrealistic advantage in return, okay? And I think that unrealistic advantage is simply that if you, as the quarterback who can see everything, make a throw that the defender is able to get 2 hands on, you deserve to throw an interception. Couple of things with that, right? First and foremost, you can just see the entire field. Second of all, we have pass leading in this game that essentially you could put the ball in a spot where the defense just struggles to get there, right? Because the defense really struggles to move laterally too much. All right, so you have pass leading at your disposal too. And if you make such a bad read that's going close to a defender that you also are unable to click onto your receiver and cut the ball off and like get in front of it, if you're not able to do that, that is such an horrid read that it's an interception. It should be a pick. Okay, I understand that there's not 100%ness on interceptions in real life. I get that. Also, in real life, though, quarterbacks don't have a bird's eye view. Okay, I think that's really fair. I think in terms of when we advocate for skill gap, I think this is an area where we can cut back on realism because we're already fighting an unrealistic thing on offense that there's no way around, and we're able to come together and be like, you know what, this is probably good for skill gap. Okay, at least in my personal opinion. Again, defender, 2 hands on the ball, interception every single time. The next one I want to talk about is the throw out of sack issue. Now, this has been talked about a lot by me because I'm a huge advocate against throw out of sacks being defensive picks. And what I mean by that is in years prior, really not this year, thankfully, you could try throwing the ball, and as you throw the ball, if you got hit, the ball would kind of get coughed up, maybe a yard or two in front of you, and a defensive lineman who was blitzing or some kind of blitzer could sometimes pick the ball off. This was really annoying from my point of view and from a lot of people's point of view because it was very RNG based, random number generator. There was no rhyme or reason to the interception happening, and me and you could do the exact same thing. I could get the interception and you could not. And if me and you are the same skill level, yet I get a fluke pick and you don't get that same fluke pick, that's really unfair for competitive integrity. Okay. Now, I'm against interceptions from this. What I am pro though is actually let's take away the ball coming out in that situation where it's just going to go a yard or two in front, and instead let's make people pay for making that read way too late and trying to get rid of the ball too late. Not pay via an interception. No, pay via a sack. If you're right here and you're getting hit to the point where you could get a throw out of sack animation that would just cough that ball up a yard or two, let's make that just a sack, right? Because a lot of time that ball's falling harmlessly, and it was objectively a bad play from the offensive player, and they're not getting penalized. They get a 2nd and 10. Who cares? They get whatever down. Like, who cares? Doesn't matter. Whereas instead, you make that be a sack. Now they're getting 2nd and 18. That's tougher. Okay. That is a huge, huge, huge deal. Now, I want to touch on the next topic being the hot route situation, where this year hot route master was built into every single quarterback and every single wide receiver or whatever. Um, I I'm pro this. I'm very pro this. I love having access to routes. I think it makes a lot more plays and a lot more formations viable, which is an issue that we've had in this game for a long time, where things just weren't viable. You're stuck to only a few things. This year, same with last year. The past couple of years, EA has killed it in terms of making as many things as possible runnable. That's been an issue for years, where it's like, man, we can only run gun bunch or trips tight end. That's really no longer the case. You can run a lot of different things. With that being said, ah, I don't want to say that's something I want removed or changed from the game. With that being said, that is contributing to offense being very, very good. There's just no way around it, right? That is contributing to offense being incredibly good. Another thing that I'm kind of becoming a big advocate of is the idea of just buffing the pass rush, right? Whatever that looks like, just put people on more of a timer. I'm not going to be an advocate of like Send 2 being good, although it was for a good part of this year and honestly still is a little decent right now. Decent in terms of a defense that you might get one stop in. But I don't think Send 2 should be good. I think it's bad for the game. But rather, Send 3s, Send 4s. I would like to see the pass rushes get tuned up a little bit. The big one, though, that I'm going to go to, that I know this will probably be the one that gets the most flat because people call this a bailout. Although I would, I believe some of the other higher level players in the world would agree with me on this, is knockouts need to be consistent. We are in a spot again where I'll kind of stand by this point, right? Where we have a bird's eye view, we have pass leading, we can do all these things that the defense just can't do a ton against. And now we're throwing balls in traffic that we're holding on to at a really high rate. I would like to see a game that you're throwing balls in traffic, is they're not getting caught. Right? If you're taking hits within a half step of catching the ball, you're at a high likelihood of dropping that ball. You just got if you're because you're not even triggering a possession catch animation at that point. We already have the ability, if you're a high level player and a good passer, right, a good offensive player, to throw the ball and then to catch the ball in a way that kind of avoids animation to some extent. You're able to do this, right, with clicking on, swerving, possession catching, combination of those. You're able to do that. So if you're throwing the ball on a spot where you get it and within a half step you're getting hit, I'd like to see that ball get knocked out. I really would. And again, I know that's a thing where people are gonna be like, ratings this, ratings that, this and that and that. Like, I get it. Again, we're at a spot, in my opinion, where at least playing online, defense is tough, man. Defense is tough, almost to an unrealistic aspect of like, this is dumb. Your best chance of getting a stop right now is your opponent stopping themselves, or you getting some fluke lucky thing. Or the third one, which I don't love, is like a lucky switch stick from you. Like, and genuinely like a lucky switch stick where they just happen to get jumped by your switch stick. You kind of both guessed and they guessed wrong. I'm not an advocate of that stuff. Um, for me, like those are some of the biggest, just number one things. I haven't even touched on the idea of like, I'd love to see zones react better. I really would. I'm really an advocate of zones just being better in general. Consistently just like getting home better. I'd like to see deep zones do a better job of defending routes underneath them. I feel like way too often we see deep zones just kind of letting corner routes get underneath them and then just not making a play on them. But I, again, I think zones are kind of where they're at, and they'll be there for a minute. I think some of the other stuff I touched on is actionable things that can change, and I'd like to see those things change. There's of course a lot of other stuff that we could touch on in this video, but I don't want to make this video super super long. Those are just my kind of off rip thoughts on things that can actually change that make defense better and easier. Right? Punish people for making mistakes. If you're not throwing open players, if you can't get players open, you probably shouldn't be moving the ball. You probably shouldn't be. If you throw a ball into coverage on first down, I should be picked. If the defense gets two hands on it, that should probably be an interception, brother. Like, honestly, it improved the level of play needed to play offense, which is a good thing. Which is a good thing, in my opinion.